counting us down? Or are we just ready? Oh. Hey, everybody, welcome to Thursday show. Hey, this is like the fourth one. So if this is your first time, thanks for joining us. If this is your fourth one, welcome back. Normally we get like a countdown, but no, they were like, hey, Paul, just start talking. I'm like, I didn't really stop until I didn't think we were, well, whatever. Save that for another time. I'm joined this evening by Adam Camilleri
Evening, everybody. How's it going?
and Alan Pajama Pants.
What's up, everybody?
This is the Thursday show on the Frontline Gaming Network. Please like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. We're going to be running down tournaments coming up over the weekend. Some of the personalities you'll see there, some of the list you're going to see, some of the lists we think you're going to do all right, and some that we just want to do right in the bottom of our hearts. And we want to talk about maybe some of the thought process we think people are taking going into this event. Welcome. How y'all doing this week?
Man, I am rock freaking solid, and I gotta allow Paul his time to lay some smackdown on Alan because, unlike weeks gone past, deathguard had some decent showings.
It's like a broken clock is right twice, a day or whatever. But actually, I do think the deathguard has some. I'm gonna give a hot take on deathguard when we jump into that because I think there's one that we can actually talk about coming up in one of these events. So one of the events we want to talk about is the Geelong GT in Australia. On the other side of it's actually Friday there, right? As we mentioned each week.
Yeah, this event starts. Yeah, Futureland. This event starts tomorrow. I was supposed to be going to this event. I submitted a Black Templars list, which was obviously I was going to win, obviously. So it's I'm allowing everyone else a better opportunity. But there's some really exciting stuff happening there. And unfortunately, that is our only GT level event for this weekend. But hey, we got a GT level event this weekend. Let's look at the positives. 44 players in lovely, kind of nice Geelong, which is about an hour and a half outside Melbourne, which is the main city in Victoria. That's the state at the bottom of Australia, above the island for those at home.
How many poisonous snakes are in Geelong? That's what I want to know.
What was that?
How many poisonous snakes are in that city?
Most of them, I was going to say. I mean, it's not all. We got tons. We got tons of it, but there is a lot. More spider territory than snakes is this time of year. We're still in the middle of winter. Like, it's just one big spider nest, and you just have to fight your way in. You guys seen The Walking
spiders?
Dead? We do. Well, we have spiders all year round, Paul. But in winter, the huntsmen's they go bananas. I was actually walking home from the train station last night with my partner, and there was like a hand-sized spider just sitting there on the paling. We're just like, look at that fella. He's having a good time. He's out in the town. There you go.
He said a hand-sized spider.
This big.
I have a feeling my wife would lose her mind. So
yeah, it's just kind of a fact of life in a lot of places in Australia. Those are the good ones, man. You see a huntsman spider, you're like, you are a boss. I'll keep you around because that guy, he runs down and eats all the dangerous spiders.
So
chases them down, tears them apart.
Do you use like a traditional dice bag where you can't see inside and you have to like dig in it for your dice, or do you just use glass,
just
like
gallon bags?
Yeah,
like clear containers.
Yeah. Everything that we exist in. If you've seen Magneto, when Magneto gets caught, he's in his like glass prison. That's literally Australia's way of life. Like toilet seats, all the walls. You want to see if your mate's home, you just look up. You just see straight through his fence, straight into his front living room. He's all right. He's having a great night watching the footy.
I expect nothing else.
And later on in this episode, backed by popular demand, we have the Fuego Rapido. We will run down some exciting and potentially controversial topics.
And we have a soundbite lovingly donated by the Ether. We'll see if you can figure out who recorded this when it gets played. But it's a thing. But transitioning over to the meat and potatoes here. Geelong Town Open's happening. Like I said, 44 players. Lovely Geelong. We got a couple of lists to talk about. As is the story with Australia, and you may find this, guys, we talk about Australian events. There aren't many people from Australia who manage to crack the top 100. We don't particularly have events big enough to get those super major scores that a lot of other places like Europe and America do. The top place, apologies, I'll jump at the gun. The quick and dirty stats here. 14 total Marines, but the breakdown there, the most numerous of the Marines in attendance is 4 Deathwatch, 3 Blood Angels. Deathwatch making a bit of a resurgence, which is quite interesting. Past that, we've got 5 drukhari players, 4 deathguards. Deathguard having a good showing as well, 4 necrons, 3 admech, and like I said, the 5 drukhari. So drukhari being the numerous single faction, like non-super faction or whatever. So what do you guys make of that? Still seeing drukhari, admech starting to come up, only 3 out of 44. But what do you guys make of the breakdown?
Drukhari are every bit as lethal as they were before, and if they're still playing with things like the terrain being a factor of what it is, or if people are just prepared, that's what they were rolling into this tournament season with. I
Mm,
expect to still see many of them, but they are still very good.
absolutely. Alan?
Yeah, no, I think it's cool that you walk through it and you're just like, there's 4 of this and 4 of that and 4 of this and 4 of that. It's just very diverse. You know, you start adding all the fours together and all of a sudden you're getting closer and closer and closer to that 44 total players or 40 plus players.
Mm.
And it's nice to see the diversity. So I think that's the biggest takeaway, that
Well,
there's
let's
still a
talk
lot of
about
stuff being
yeah,
played.
Deathwatch for a second. So
Mm.
Deathwatch is one of those things that we anticipated early on as being something that had to grow into itself. It said it had all these rules for armies that no one were really taking, and now we're starting to see some of those armies filter their way back into the fabric of the tournament. Does that by nature make the Deathwatch potentially better? Or the fact that maybe potentially Primaris Marines are getting more powerful, also making some of their little used what are they? Death
Ki-
Watch.
Kill
What's that?
teams.
Yeah, kill
Kill teams.
teams.
Kill teams, yeah.
Uh, a lot more attractive.
I mean,
Alan, you want?
yeah, I would say, yeah. I think, Death Guard's definitely one of those skill-based armies where you do have to really understand all the situational aspects. So, I could see
We got
Death Watch
lots of
getting
death
like,
and lots of watches and guards. It's Death Watch is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, Death Watch. Death Watch. They have a lot of strats. They have a lot of things that are situational. So I do think over time they will have the ability to really, kind of come out and have their own play style. I still don't think, they're top tier of an army, but I do expect to see, more players playing them. So I'm not surprised.
Is it a
And
skill based army? And yeah, yeah, Adam, jump in here. Do you think it's a skill based army that if
so
you have the situational tech, you can really make the most of it of every game?
So there's a lot of different moving parts when it comes to Deathwatch and the way in which they play. A lot of people looked at Deathwatch when they came out and they're like, "Oh, this is the way you play the next tier of elitism into your Space Marines." As in, instead of having what people were trying to do a lot of the time at the time, which was more MSU based Space Wolves, Blood Angels, White Scars. They had this conglomeration of everything and almost like like 3 or 4 mini Death Stars inside your Indomina kill teams and your whichever the ones are that have the Outriders in them, etc.
Yeah, five
But
outriders.
then
Can't get that anywhere
yeah,
else.
but then people started realizing, hey, this is a way of actually playing a different style of MSU. It's a style of MSU in which you can start to proliferate things like OBSEC upon things like Outriders, 5 Outriders with OBSEC, or what people have leaned to now because they realize the Outriders are unfortunately a little too expensive into the min 4 damage meta, which was all the Dark Lancers and things. They just get popped. They're going back to regular bikes. So just 5 regular bikes and then 5 regular Marines. So in sense, you get 5 veterans, Vanguard veteran-esque, and then 5 OBSEC bikes, which you'd have to go to literal a full Raven Wing detachment in Dark Angels to get a similar effect. And so people have realized this is a different way of playing MSU. And on top of that, you get some things you don't get anywhere else. You get invulns on vehicles that doesn't require a cast, doesn't require a spell, just requires 1 CP for a relic, or even if you want to take it as your single free one. And so people are realizing this is a good way of making some of these dreads and things more reliable, more resilient on the table against those things that I just mentioned, those min 4 damage weapons, all the Dark Lancers, the Melters, etc. And so I expected to see this pivot a little bit, especially when I saw guys like John Lennon playing the Ultramarines. I looked at that Ultramarines list and like, if you took away the redeploy gimmick, which is very strong, Deathwatch is just hands down better. Absolutely hands down
Well, the
better. I
Death
wonder if
Watch
Alan,
has
if
some
you agree with
tricky
that.
maneuvers too, right? I mean, can't they like beam down a unit of like Hellblasters or something, which traditionally seem to be a unit that can't really find its place. But this is an army I think that you might be able to fold them in. And I don't know what's in these folks' list here. They may have this, they may not have that, but I don't know. I don't want to count Death Watch out.
No,
Alan, what do you think?
you actually make up a good point, Paul. So what we're talking about is 2 completely different things. So when I address Death Watch, I was talking about like the traditional Death Watch. When you think of Death Watch, you think of kill teams, you think of
Mm,
stratagems where they can take advantage of, the type of army they're playing against, the stratagems against that particular army, the situational aspects of like the units and how they're, mixed and all the special rules you can get within one squad, how you can take advantage of that. That's the traditional Death Watch approach. And you're right, there is something there. And that's what I was speaking to, that will take time. And there will be players who love to play that. If you compare all those special rules to Mechanicum or Sisters, or even probably Orcs when they come out, they're not as dynamic. They don't have as much as those codexes. So they're left wanting a little bit. And that's why we're seeing competitive players play something like John Lennon's list, which, yes, it is Death Watch, of course. but is it really Deathwatch? No,
Mm,
it's just
yeah.
dreadnoughts with all rerolls. That's all it is. It's where can I get the most efficient shooting with the most probability to cause the most damage. And they found that in Deathwatch with a couple of combos with the relics and the Contemptor relic dread, and
Mm,
other things that they can take like the Redemptor dread. But that's not really the traditional Deathwatch. So when you think of Deathwatch, it really depends on what type of army you're actually talking about. The dread approach is really just kind of high tier meta busting marine play. The other one with the kill teams and the mixed squads and being aware of strategic situations. That's the traditional Deathwatch. They're very
yeah.
separate.
Yeah, and it's good you clarified that because you're absolutely right. I don't think we're going to see that list for another couple of months still. I think that one's still a little ways off. I think that list needs orcs in the meta, needs Tyranids in the meta. It needs those things for those
I
kill
would
teams to
agree.
get full value for investment.
Yeah.
Because right now you get like a kill team, you put like 5 eradicators in or 5, and then have 5 heavy intercessors, and like one half of that piece is redundant in that matchup. Like you play orcs, and you're like, well, these 5
Yeah.
eradicators, they're
What do I do?
wasted points.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, so to speak. We'll jump down. We'll talk about our top place gentlemen, the highest ranked
Hey,
gentlemen.
wait a second. You can't
Sorry.
forget the fact that there are 3 Blood Angels in this mix here. And looking at the field and looking at the number of players, Blood Angels, faction near and dear to my heart, have been struggling a little bit in the rankings, but this may be an area for them to be able to excel. I'm going to be very curious to see how they do over the weekend.
Alan, have you seen Blood Angels match up into things like drukhari, things like admech, in your opinion?
Yeah, Blood Angels are lacking really from an overall army core concept, right? They're supposed to be the overall aggressive army, and I think Sanguinary Guard was really the real big pitch with just mass. I know Junior was very effective with, running I think 3 squads of those in a couple events, and I think
Yeah,
he just got
28,
second
30
place.
Sanguinary Guard. Always
Yeah,
used to
and
always
he
just get it done. Yeah.
he just got second place at the 40K
Yeah.
major event. So I think, Blood Angels is one of those armies that a lot of people have either heard about what they were in third edition or played them in third edition and just love them forever. A lot of old time players have been playing Blood Angels for a long time. It was my first army when I started 40K. People really like Blood Angels. People like the theme. So I think that's why people will stick to it. But I think in terms of like close combat, they're outmatched by Dark Eldar purely by points.
Points.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just not even close in terms of damage output for points. So that's the real problem where they're trying to compete. There's a bigger dog in that park.
That's what I love about this field, though. So with the number of players that we have and the saturation of that list, I think you can get some great matchups and still finish up near the top.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
40K right
Yeah.
now, you could pretty much play anything. If you play it well, you can go to almost any GT and you can have a 1-loss record with almost any army. And I've never said that before in any previous edition. So I really like that too. I wish I can go to more events right now. So it's definitely like that for me. That's my opinion at least.
I totally agree with that. If you've been playing like an 8th edition codex and you've been playing that thing pretty solid for the last like 2 years, chances are you can do well at any event. I'm not going to say you're going to win. Like I think that's pretty foolhardy and arrogant to say that, but
Hey,
100%
call your shot.
you have a
It could
punch.
be
No, you got
anybody's
to.
game. You learn how
Everyone's
to
got to
do.
punch his chance, man.
That's it, and also 3 AdMech armies, and I know we're trying to move to the deeper into the meat of this, but do we think AdMech are still suffering from that like hobby lag as people catch up? I know that mine aren't. My new list isn't all the way painted. Do you think that that's what's holding it at 3, or is that just the landscape of Geelong?
It might also be models in Australia. I have no idea, Adam.
Yeah.
What's your model situation
So,
there? Because we're talking about like 80 Vanguard slash, you know,
mm,
Rangers. So
so I'll tell you guys right now. So in Victoria, the state that I live in, when we were looking to field players for our state team in our state competition, we have like a WTC-esque interstate competition, like the American ATC, but each state has to have a representative team rather than just whoever wants to just pull a team together and go for it. So 8 players, we were like scratching our head, we're like, we don't have a dedicated admech player, and we were thinking about why. And it's because it's prohibitively expensive here. They're a hard army to master, as into master. You can just chuck down the best gunline you can play, and hell, you're just going to be a better Tau army in this edition at the moment. But to truly master that codex is something that's always been difficult. It's always been a really, really hard ring to grab. On top of that, when admech is good, the models sell out here immediately, and then they're very hard to get after that. So 100% the hobby lag situation for admech is a really big deal down here. I'm actually impressed. We've got 3 players out of 40, 44, 45. I think that's actually pretty good for us. One of those being a gentleman whose list we'll talk about soon, who I'm gonna get my boot up for because he's my shoe in for this baby. But yeah, well, if you want, we'll jump into some of these lists. But I do think admech is going to be on the rise in Australia and worldwide. It's just a couple of weeks, couple of months away.
Well, Tomodachi Express in the chat mentions that people might not be as confident with them as well. So even if they do have the models,
Mm.
they are ready, they might not be as confident because of some of the complexity of the layers of rules going into
Yeah.
them, bringing them into an event. They might bring something, especially over the course of a weekend, where it could be a grind for folks that they want to do something that's a little bit easier on the heart and the mind from game to game. That could be a factor.
I would say outside of movement, at the new admech book is very forgiving, very forgiving. You just have to get movement right. You can forget a whole bunch of other stuff and you'll be fine.
Well,
Sorry.
when to pop
Sorry,
off
didn't mean
your canicles and your psalms, I
Mm.
think. Or sorry, your doctrina and your psalms, in which order. That is, I think what's going to make or
Mm.
break a lot of admech players out there.
But I tend to agree with Alan. I think it's you always got to be moving with foresight. You always be moving with you the limitations of your command abilities in mind. Like, okay, so this unit has to move over here to screen out this backfield from deep strike, but next turn needs to be within 6 of these guys and 3 of these guys in order to do this buff and over there, blah blah blah. You're right, and that's why I see newer players lean towards those traditional gunline builds, which are the ones that are easiest to handle. They're the most punitive to get slapped in the face with by the opposition. But at the same time, I know what they're going to do. Like, they're just going to reach out from one side of the table and just push my models back into my case.
Yep.
But it's the list that really scare me are the janky ones, the ones with like 1 or 2 of everything in there, and you're like, holy crap, I know about 20% of what all these things can do,
Yeah.
and the rest of it is just going to butcher me. I'm not going to see it coming.
Yeah. Wait, there's a target for every stratagem in the book on the
Yeah,
table. I don't.
yeah.
What's going to happen to my face? Yeah.
And that's a confidence thing. Remember, Alan pointed out a drukhari build a couple of weeks ago where a gentleman, one of the Switzerland WTC captain, he took just 1 of everything in his drukhari army. Just like, 1 of everything, 1 of Ravens, 1 of Hellions, nothing was max size, nothing was optimum size, just 1 of everything. I'm like, this guy is just gonna run rings around people because everyone only knows what like 40% of that book does at the moment.
It's Daniel Hesselberg. He's the captain of Team Sweden. So
Great player,
legend.
great guy. I like him a
Mm.
lot.
and if you're worried about admech, as what I would recommend you do is when you do play test and when you go to a tournament, make geometrical objects out of like cardboard or styrofoam or whiteboard. I do that a lot with armies on all kinds of things. You can make all the things that Adam was just talking about. You need circles for auras. You can literally put it on your model. You can move that around so you get used to those movements, and you can even bring it to a tournament. There's no rules against you bringing templates to help you with all your spacing, because your intent is to be within those ranges. So those templates can help you do it. I would recommend that.
We got a comment in the chat that says, "Can we argue that Castle AdMech lists do seem to be a little more simple to play in play style than some of the other meta lists that we are seeing?" And Adam, I know for a fact you've been playing Black Templar, and and you had a confrontation with AdMech.
Yeah, I played against Admech for the first time at an RTT on the weekend, and he was like the gun line. He had 2 of each tank. He had like, I think it was 7 or 8 chickens. He had a bunch of MSU Rangers and Hounds and Service Raiders, 2 bombers as well. And yeah, it was just like so much stuff. You just get so much bang for your buck there, especially when you're talking about the back line of your army being like 7 or 8 chicken walkers, and it's not even a quarter of your army, just for that, like the best shooting anti mech shooting unit in the game.
There is,
Yeah, that exists, and so yeah, I was like, just every piece of terrain needs to be used perfectly.
I would
Otherwise, I'm
say
just gonna get wrecked.
I would answer that question by saying, yeah, a static army is obviously easier to play, but there are a couple of missions, several missions actually, which require you to play mid board at least at a minimum. And those are the games where you do have to make sure you're making all those ranges and you're in auras and you're moving in the correct way. Because if you get caught, that's the only part that's unforgiving. If you get caught and you don't have a buff or you don't have a benefit or you don't have what you need to really take advantage of either enough offensive opportunity or hinder your opponent from their offensive opportunity with some kind of defense. So that's really the main thing with AdMech right now. But you
And
do
I
have
literally-
on board.
Alan, that's one of my questions for you. Is do you think there's a list out there that can stand up to just basically standing and shooting, or are there any just gun line, move down the table, leaf blow as you will, armies out there that can win the missions, can win a tournament that way? Should people be on the lookout for things like that, or should people, if they are taking them, feel like they have a shot at winning the whole thing?
Yeah, I think admech's the closest thing to that right now. I'm curious to see what 120 toughness 5 boys do and how many points they are. But admech right now can do that. But like again, you have to nail movement. That's the most important part. You can forget some strats or you can forget some of the offensive powers because it'll all pan out for you in that army. It just has so much. But movement's key. So you could do that, Paul, but you just need to make sure movement's solid.
And
I
sorry,
just
Adam.
I just added a Rapido to our Rapido one. The last one is going to be, should we play the Scouring in every missions pack? And
Well, we were. I know I jumped or segued us from talking about some of the notable players that you were going to see at this event over the weekend, and I'm sure you're close to them. Tell us about the folks we're going to see there.
Yeah, so the top players gentleman at this event is Mr. Jason Cavalier from one of the Portland crew, who's on the other side, is down the coast from Geelong. He's playing Deathguard, he's playing a Terminus S Strike Force. This guy's been going to a lot of events. He's had some really good showings, and he's been leaning really. He's hard on the mono Deathguard, and he's playing in such a way that it doesn't really matter what he's against. He's like never going to get less than 60 points. I'll run it down for you guys quickly. Starts off with Harbingers, of course. He's Terminus S, has to be. He has a Death Company Demon Prince, a Malignant Players Caster, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 units of 20 Poxwalkers, 1 unit of 19 Poxwalkers, coming in at the 99 Poxwalkers for some reason, but not even the full ton. There's got a unit of, I think it's a unit of 10 Blightlord Terminators, all with Bubonic Axe and Combi Bolter. A unit of Death Guard Possessed to offset the need for all the Poxwalkers. A unit of 5 Death Shroud, a unit of 3 Test Shroud, a unit of 3 Death Shroud, and a Tallyman. That is the entirety of the list. So run that down for a quick recap. 99 Poxwalkers across 5 squads. 10 Blight Lords, a big unit of Death Shroud, a unit of 5, 2 units of 3, 1 unit of Baby Possessed, and then just a couple of buffing characters. It's pretty lean when you get to these kind of things. A lot of these Death Guard lists can really blow out with all the little characters you can put in here, there, and everywhere. Hasn't got any fights last year, which was an interesting omission. But yeah, he's just leaned well and truly into having either only Poxwalker bodies or only Terminator bodies. And so he kind of splits your efficiencies between those two options. Because you don't have a third. There is no third option. You're shooting into one of those profiles, no matter what you do.
Remember, the Poxwalkers have to be offset by bubonic Astartes. That's why why you say some of the choice, and you mentioned that in the list. But before we got maybe analyze this list, does anyone have anything to say about Death Guard? Does anyone on the panel right now maybe want to talk about Death Guard at all? Want to say anything about it?
I don't know. I'm sure Jason is a nice guy. I don't particularly know why he's playing this army. It seems as boring as watching paint dry. He really has no shooting. He just walks across the board and hopes he doesn't die. And yeah, I mean, a lot of things will have a hard time killing some of this stuff, but you know what won't have a hard time killing this? Noise Marines from Emperor's Children. They'll pick up all 100 Poxwalkers in a single turn if they can see them.
So Alan, a good mate of mine is coming to this event. His name's Lee Abbey, and he's bringing Noise Marines in Dreadclaw drop pods.
Okay, mans. So Lee, friend of the show, if he plays Jason, Jason's gonna feel really bad because he brought like nothing to absolute gunfight, like a crazy gunfight. So I mean, I get it. It's an army that, if it was fast, I can see it being fun. But it's not fast. It's just slow, hard to kill, takes up a lot of board, and hides and then counterattacks. And I get it. I understand why it's good. It's pretty clear.
They're faster than you think they are. They had that I think it's 2 or 3 CP, and they get that 8-inch move. So they do just kind of slingshot up faster than you think. And then when they start regenning guys because you pinch it into them, which I believe is a mistake. If you can't kill all 20, don't bother.
Well, with Terminus S,
bring him back.
It doesn't matter if you do. You can still. Yeah. So there's multiple ways to get a lot of these Poxwalkers back. So it's you're trading CP for extra points.
Yeah. So what you want to do if you're facing this, and Noise Marines are actually a great example. Nuke a 20-man dead, and then 5 to 7 from every other squad. Do not try and nuke a second one down. You go nuke 1 20-man, force them to use the re-rack strat, and then just nuke like around about a third of every other squad, and then it makes them all manageable for next turn.
What
Trying to take away like 60 to 80 of them in a turn, or even 40 in a turn, you're just going to fail. You know why? Because a smart player always has a tail of 5 or 6 of them peeking around obscuring, and then you'll get down to that, and you'll have over or under committed.
I am loath to agree with Alan on this, but Noise Marines really stack up incredibly well against this army because although they can bring folks back, you kill a Noise Marine, it's
I
taking
mean,
it's taking
so
folks
do
with
the
it.
yeah, so do the dreadnought armies, right? Like all of the Space Marine pivots to dreadnoughts, heavy dreadnought shooting. I mean, Lenin's army just peels this off the board. It's like 100 and something shots a turn with the Redemptors and the Volt and the Contemptors. I mean, it's just so much shooting, you know. And I just feel like there's like whenever I play an army and I'm like deploying and I go, you can't get to me turn one, you can't charge me with anything turn one, you provide no threat turn one, you can't shoot me at all, pretty much that I'm worried about at range at least. Like I just immediately I feel like I have the advantage. I feel like I'm gonna play the game. I get that I get the benefits. The benefits are insane board control, really hard to kill, high resilience. You know, if you
Well,
do get close, the Terminators punish you. But at the end of the day, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of armies right now that have the firepower to handle this, and I think
don't
Admech does
discount.
too.
Yeah, don't discount the ignore injury on the poxwalkers and the effect to bring them back. I mean, I think it's you can have some demoralizing turns against
Mm.
someone, and if just with just a little bit of fortunate rolling, this list becomes just an immovable object, which I think can get in the heads of players very early.
Also, and speaking to that, this is trying to do two things. Like I said, it's got like 20 Terminator bodies in here, in addition to all the Poxwalkers. And so let's say you have nothing but Noise Marines. Noise Marines don't do diddly squat to 21 Terminator bodies. They'll wear them down over time. But if you're going to spend all your game picking up 100 Poxwalkers, do you have time left to kill the Termies?
Yes. No, like you
Well,
legitimately do, right? So you have a banner. I mean, I can walk you through it. You have a banner. So you have reroll
Right.
all wounds, right? You can shoot twice every turn because you have reroll because you're Slanesh. You can
Sure.
go to strength 5, damage 2, right? So you're all damage 2.
Damage 2 doesn't matter here. They're all -1.
That's true. So that's their saving grace. You're right there. That's where
Mm.
you're right. So I'm glad I walked through it actually because you are correct. You need something else in the list, which you will
Yeah,
have.
you do.
'Cause that unit's 350 points, so you have.
we're
Yeah.
talking about lining up this versus this in a a bowling alley or whatever. That doesn't
It's
happen when we
true.
actually
It's
start
true.
playing the game. But I do.
Mm.
I mean, Alan, I absolutely do agree with you. I think that Slanesh does have the tools, but will those two meet? And that's what's interesting about this number of players here is that they realistically could, and this will be a showdown.
Yeah, that would be cool if
Absolutely.
it is a showdown. And that's just an example, right? That's my favorite example. I think AdMech, AdMech for
Yeah,
sure.
look,
I think, there's a lot of other lists. All the Dreadnought type
I
of armies can also do
I
this.
agree.
Sisters of Battle. Ooh, ooh,
So I agree. Admech is a really rough trot for this kind of
ooh.
list because the thing is, you've got 20 dudes and they've got 20 dudes, and your 20 dudes need to get to those 20 dudes to do stuff. Those 20 dudes can sit 30 inches away and just
Yeah,
smash you with 20
And you
dudes.
it
race
So
your
fires
that's
20
three
dudes.
just
times to
Right?
every one of
You
yours.
race them.
Yeah, you're not
yeah,
going to
yeah,
six your way out of that.
Yeah.
And you
yeah.
mentioned the ones that the 99th Poxwalker. I don't know if that's some significance to the player, but
It'd just be
that's
a points thing.
it's a very easy place to peel off 5 points because he comes
Yeah.
in right at 2000, and I do like his character choices. So the malignant plaguecaster, it's got that extra mortal wound on a set. So what I like about it is it's a low cost character,
Mm.
and you're getting something free for doing something you're already doing anyway. You're going to be casting your psyche powers, and if you just happen to roll above a 7, then you also happen to do a
Mm.
mortal wound, and that is
Yeah.
value town everywhere.
Yeah, and look, he's got the plague skull in there as well, which can pop off like a bucket of mortal
Oh
wounds.
yeah.
If you
I love the
just if
play.
you
I love the
decide to get, I mean, I love that. I don't know why I don't see
play.
that thing more often. That
I
thing
love
is
the
is
play.
savage. So yeah, look, I think it's a well constructed list for what it is. I think it'll go far. But yeah, like I said, I think this is definitely one of those lists where it's just a perennial 4-1. And I think it's going to start losing power, and they're going to have to start looking to like. Man, when I see a Death Guard list and I see it's Terminus Est, I secretly go, no PBCs, yay! And so I think that's something that Death
Exactly.
Guard police need to home in on.
Yeah.
I,
You have the best or equal best contemptors in the game. Those and PBCs together make such a really good fire base. 2 of each is perfect to do so much annoying crap, and you still have so much of an army left to play
And
with.
I think you
yeah,
need the flyer guy with the buzz thing. or 2 of them probably.
The
Yeah,
flesh mowers.
A
no, the
flesh mower.
fetid
We
blow
need
drones with the
that.
flesh mowers, and
That'd be
and I don't
fun.
want to second guess the pilot of the list or whatever,
No.
but putting wings on a Death Guard demon print, you don't even get 12 inches out of it.
I
So
know.
it's an interesting thing of, do you even really want to do that? Of course, more movement is better sometimes, and it may come down again. What are you going to do with those 15 points? And then I will point out, though, that everything that you just mentioned of what might be a great alternative is a vehicle, and vehicles cannot exist in the Terminus S army list, and so you lose access to some of that recyclability, and
So
that's not what they're going for here.
where I really like this list is that in a lot of the admech lists that I'm seeing right now that are total full bowler gun lines, they have strength 4 shooting prolifically with all the little stubbers and stuff they've got. But apart from that, everything's anti-tank. Like, do you know what 12 chickens can't kill? 20 poxwalkers.
Yeah,
12
they messed
chickens
up
can't
those
kill 20
Terminators.
poxwalkers. Yeah, but they'll pop the Terminators. But that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to divide your profiles. He's saying no matter what you've taken, some of your stuff is wasted here.
That
But anyway.
matters. When you have target confusion, it absolutely matters, and that is something you can work into any list build. I know we spent a lot of time talking about Death Guard, but I wanted to showcase that how they did pull up some podiums last week when so there were I'm not saying who, but there were some naysayers around the office here.
Jason, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong.
Go for it, Jason.
What do we
Get a
got
podium.
next?
All right, we have a little one here that's worth talking about. This is a gentleman close to my heart. He's a good friend of mine named Matt Jackson. He has taken Chaos Knights in addition to Empress Children as well. So this is the first little ingress for Empress Children. There's a couple of others, but we limit ourselves to talking about some bits and pieces. And the reason I want to talk about this is because it has mutilators in it. And holy crap, we need some unpacking. I'm going to hand pass over to Alan for that. But running through the list starts off with a super heavy detachment. He's got a Knight Despoiler, a Knight Tyrant. For those who don't know, the Tyrant is the Castellan. And the Despoiler is the Despoiler is the Crusader, yeah? No. Sorry, apologies. This Despoiler has a Reaper Chainsword and a Thermal Cannon, so it's a Paladin? No, not Paladin. Aaron. Aaron, yeah. And then he's got 2 units of 2 Moiraxes with 2 a Lightning Lock and a Siege Claw each. I do kind of like how he's diversified that. He's gone 1 Claw, 1 Lightning Lock. But if it was me, I'd have 2 with both Lightning Locks, and then maybe 2 Warglaves or War Dogs instead. But this is his flavor. This is what he likes to do. Then he goes to an Empress Children Patrol. This one starts with the Chaos Lord, with the Jump Pack and the Super Lightning Claws. And then he has just a unit of Chaos Space Marines. 3 Mutilators. I'll say that. This is the first time I think I've said Mutilators out loud in 9th edition. But he doesn't just have 1, which I have heard arguments for before. He has 3, a unit of 3. And then he has 2 units of Raptors. Now, I'm going to slap this over to Alan. I want you to tell us a story about the Mutilators. Why are they there? What is he doing? Why do they exist?
Let me go down the Lightning Lock if I can, just before we jump to that. Just so, because you mentioned it, you would possibly double up on that, and that is a 36-inch range, heavy 6 weapon, strength 6, neg 2 AP 1 damage. Each time an attack is made with this weapon, and an unmodified hit roll of 6 scores 2 additional hits. So it's got a little bit of that kind of like Tesla feel to it. So you could potentially lay out a ton of firepower, and it sounded like you said that would be the optimal build, potentially, instead of a close combat weapon and a single one.
Yeah, for my taste. And so for those who don't know, the real power here is the fact that Iconoclast Knights can choose to take some mortal wounds and get extra damage on their weapons. So those Lightning Locks go to damage 2. I mean, they take the chassis takes, I think, is D3 mortal wounds. But then you just got 2 damage on that chassis. And he's taken a custom household, which gets you looked up that, Alan. It's the free reroll one, yeah?
Yeah, it's the reroll number of shots.
Yeah.
So you're able to reroll the D6 on the Inferno and the D6 on the other gun for the other Knight. Which
is prime for a Castellan chassis, yeah? You get that on your D3 your 2 D3 autocannon shots, you get that on your Plasma Decimator shots, you get that on your Volcano Lance shots. So it's really the house you take when you want to activate that chassis, that one. But Mutilators, what the hell?
Yeah, I must say, bring some sanity to this.
Oh no, Mutilators are awesome actually. So no, they are. So when 9th edition dropped, I don't know, I think it was Fred Fortman from the Chicagoland area. Me and him were talking about Mutilators, I think, somewhere. I can't remember where, but it was right when 9th dropped. I mean, they're 35 points a model. They have like 3 wounds with a 2-up save. It's just so efficient from a points perspective. You're getting a 2-up, put them in cover. They're at a 1-up, right? With 3 wounds each. Very cheap. You're not charging them with a unit from reserves, because they're good in close combat. They're like strength 5. They got like D3 attacks per guy, negative D3 damage, and D3 wounds, because they have just crazy melee weapons. And their strength is also plus D3 from 5. So
It is, yeah, plus D3
yeah,
strength, neg D3 AP, and D3 damage. Flips on the obliterator
Yeah.
shooting profile.
which I love because I'm an orc player. I love randomness. They're just hilarious. And for 35 points, times three, you're paying basically a little over 100 points for three dudes to sit somewhere on an objective and just zone it out. You're not going
And
to
they,
put
they
anything
do have the
small
hateful
here.
assault, so it's 4 attacks apiece with all the stats you're
Mm.
talking about before you do
Now,
anything to buff them.
can they honor the prince?
Yeah. Yeah, they can
So
definitely honor the prince. They
they
can
can,
go in reserves for free. You don't even
yeah.
have to pay. And then you can honor the prince with them as well. And you can try to take your opponent's objective if they're holding it with some
Mm.
small unit in their backfield. You can do that too. So I mean,
Yep.
he only has one unit, so he might be using them that way. But yeah, I think for the cost, they're a very efficient unit.
If,
Toughness, resilience wise versus points.
if they had movement 6, they'd literally be blade guard. Sorry.
Yeah.
Same 3 wounds. You get one worse invuln, but you get one better toughness. Like, it's very comparable there. 35 points apiece as well, between the two. And arguably the blade guard are more resilient, but arguably the mutilators slap better when they get there.
Yeah, I think yeah, obviously Blade Guard are just gross, but I mean the Mutilators have that 2+ and they still have a 5+ invulnerable save. And then if they're in the Emperor's Children detachment, which in this list they are, they get strike first as well, which is really nice. So I mean, if they survive a combat, they can even keep going. So
So
I mean,
are,
put them
are
in the
they
backfield. Pretty
are
good.
they really there? Do you think for their stats, or are they there just for points of secondary scoring?
No, I think he took them for more than secondary scoring. I think he's taking them to bully a unit that someone is holding with nonsense. Someone is holding something
Yeah.
in their backfield with
So
nonsense. He can honor the prince and guarantee the charge with this unit. And he's not really honoring the prince with anything else. I mean, he's not
nah.
using his raptors. He may have, if he could have took 3 fasts, maybe he would have took another raptor squad
Yeah.
instead of the mutilators, but he can't because I think it's a patrol. So
Yeah, it is.
he's-
I was legit gonna say exactly the same thing. I was like, if he could have taken more Raptors, I think he would have.
I think you would have.
And I think he did. He didn't have the points for Terminators, so he's like, okay, don't have the points for a Terminator bomb. What's the next best thing? Holy crap, Mutilators exist.
Yeah.
Ah.
Yeah. So I think it's a unit that can come out behind his opponent, try to get that charge with Honor the Prince, and that's one turn of engage he's getting without wasting the Raptor squads. So like that unit comes down 2 or 3, Raptors come down 2. He's getting those points for engage, trying to get 3 every single turn with that.
Well, do you think about the pressure and the duality of this list? He's got one big knight with combat weapons, with a Reaper chainsaw. And he's got 4 little knights with combat with half as well. He's possibly got 5 knights coming into your face. Can you turn around and deal with 3 obliterators if they just drop onto your home objective and kill your 10 guardsmen? Or a quiv?
Yeah.
You're like, crap. I don't know if I can.
Yeah, I think that's
So-
exactly what he was looking for.
I had to look up Honor the Prince because we've mentioned it as a powerful thing, and then I remembered that there's a U in it when we're in the Codex. Honor. Anyway, so use the stratagem in your charge phase after making a charge roll for an Emperor's Children Slanesh unit from your army. You can change the result of one of those D6 rolled to a 6.
So on
And
your
you can also use
2d6,
a reroll. You can also
Yeah.
use your reroll. So if you don't roll a 3, right?
Yep.
So if you roll 2 dice, you get a 1 and a 2 or a 1 and a 1. Or 2 and a 2. You can pick them up for 1 CP, re-roll them, and then change the dice to a 6
Flip
as
one
well.
to a 6. Yep.
it's over an 85% success rate. So well over 85%. In fact, I think it's in the 90% success rate that these guys just auto make a charge from reserve.
I failed it once against Kyle Perry from LA. Kyle, you beat me because of that. You're awesome.
Man, and I don't want to say this too prolifically because I know how much Alan will want to stake a claim on this. But man, Emperor's Children have been showing up a lot in Australia. Some of our best Chaos players have been on that Emperor's Children train for a long time. Lee Abbey, the gentleman who's running the Emperor's Children, I said the Noise Marines and Drop Pods, he was going to take essentially what Matt Morrisoli ended up winning Uprising with, which was two Terminator bombs from reserve with a bunch of like all the best demon stuff, keepers, beasts, all that stuff, and that list was incredibly well balanced for that meta at the time. Like, yeah, dude, you think about what Harlequins were trying to do back then. You're just like, here's 2 units a piece of Nurgle that can heroically intervene, string it across 3 objectives. You can't touch crap, or else you're just going to get mauled. And then all these Terminators just come down, double shoot, double fire, blah blah blah, auto charge. But yeah, they're all starting to do this little bits of evolution. And with the Deathclaw bit coming in as well, I think there's some pretty nifty stuff in the future for them. And I can't wait to see what happens once these guys get their extra wound. Like 2 wound Noise Marines right now are good as long as there's units for them to hunt. Dude, if Noise Marines stay in the same iteration they are when there's toughness 5 boys, Noise Marines are in a good position. Very good position. As long as they have the 1 CP for vets in the double shoot, they are going to be monsters.
They're going to lose double shoot probably.
And probably vets. Like vets is going to change to something else. Like realistically,
you want to run down the admech list and see what's in that thing. It's a lot.
The shoes here. This is Adam's shoe-in of the pick of the day. I'm holding up my bricklaying boot because it's Adam's shoe-in list for the event. I'd like to see what you guys think of this one. And I've talked to this guy quite a bit about this list. His name's Sam Dutney. He's very much one of the biggest up-and-comers that we have in Australia. He's a gentleman with a lot of drive. Starts with a Lucius Patrol, Obliquitous Secretary Marshal, 1 unit of 20 Vanguard, 1 unit of 5 Infiltrators, 1 unit of 5 Rust Stalkers, 3 Chickens, Las Cannon Chickens, a unit of min unit of Cerberus Raiders, 2 Fuller Saves, so that's the gunship chicken flyer thing, and then 2 Dune Riders. Then he has another patrol. This one starts with another Marshal, 2 units of 5 Rangers, 2 units of 3 Cerberus Raiders, and 2 Stratoraptors, the Bombers. And then lastly, he has another Lucius Patrol, a Manipulus, 2 more units of 5 Rangers, and another Bomber. So that's 3 bombers, two of the gunships, 3 chicken walkers, 3 units of 3 Cerberus Raiders, and then a bunch of different size units of troops. 1 block of 20, 5 man infiltrators, 5 man rust stalkers. So it's apart from the 20 man, it's all MSU'd around the 5 planes. I find this list very interesting. It can do a lot of different stuff. I've since talked to him, and he's played a bunch of practice games because naturally a lot of this stuff, because these lists for this were submitted about 2 weeks ago, so he didn't have a lot of time for practice games with this. And he says he's falling out of love with the gunships. He says just like a chicken is just better than a gunship for the points.
I wouldn't take
it. Yeah.
That's actually going to be my question for Alan is, do flyers do anything? What's up with all these flyers?
Yeah, I think on paper, and I can't speak for this gentleman, Sam, but I do believe on paper he was trying to design an army list that beats Dark Eldar.
Yes.
Whether it goes first or second, he's really focused on Dark Eldar. Very, very, very focused on Dark Eldar. So he's trying to close the distance of the board before the Dark Eldar close the distance on him, blow up the vehicles on their side of the board, and then take advantage of that with all the MSU after that. That's clearly his approach.
I love his transports. He's got a bunch of vehicles in here, which not everything matches up against very well.
Yep. No, he does. Yeah. And I don't like the gunships. I like the bombers. Bombers are great. I don't think you need more than 2. I think 2 is pretty much the sweet spot for them. I think he's over committing a little bit to the Dark Eldar, meta. I think he's forgetting that sisters exist slightly. And I think he's a little too stretched MSU. I think he's found a really good spot in between, and he does have, that 1 brick that we saw in the original patrol, but overall, I'd like to see more bodies in the new admech. It might be a model issue, or he might just want to go this MSU route. But I feel like he really tailored hard for Dark Eldar, and he's missing a little bit of what he needs probably for Sisters. So I'd like to see him go against Sisters and see how he does.
Yeah, me too. I want to see him go against drukhari and see if this actually works as he wants it to. Because you're absolutely right. He's tailoring a lot for drukhari and a lot for Marines as well. He's got a lot of good Marine killing tools. That unit of Vanguard picks up just about any Marine unit that you've got. I don't care what it is. And I really do like the way he's gone with it. I have talked to him a lot about this list. I'm of the opinion 1 bomber. That's it. Just 1. 1 to keep him honest and 1 to do the shenanigans. That's because I feel like because everyone's getting more mortal wounds, either admech wants to go wholly into the mortal wounds or away from it. That's just my preference. I know for a fact this gentleman in particular is trying to steer away from the 20-man bricks. He feels like that's a trap for the time being, and that everyone is so fearful of them in the meta that he's going to see like all the plasma inceptors are coming back, all the stuff that's just going to smash off 20 Marines, and he feels like that's just going to steamroll into the 20-man sisters units and the Orc boys. So he's like, okay, pump the brakes, not going out and buying 300 Secretary Vanguard stuff. I'm going to MSU. I'm going to try and play this alternative play style.
What do you guys think? That. No, I can respect that a lot. And I do think that the Flyers are going to struggle with things like you just can get spread too thin. Your opponent can look at your list and go, how do I make sure you cannot claim any objectives? How do I make sure that I'm going to always be points ahead of you? And those are easy targets. I shouldn't say easy targets, not easy necessarily to deal with, but they are present on the table and they're in the mind of your opponent to deal with at all times. And I think that's a bit of a drag on those things. And so I think he has too much focus there. But, I like the list though. I will say that
Mm,
it's actually well put together. I think it's focused. I believe that he can maybe rely on their skill early in the rounds, and then he maybe plan to see drukhari in round 4 and 5 or later, whatever, however
yeah.
deep the rounds go, and he's gonna have the tools to do with them. So yeah, we could see a lot out of this list.
Yep. Absolutely. Um, I think
It,
we got a discussion point we want to talk about from Alan up next. Sorry, Paul.
oh no, we're getting close to it. It's almost fuego rapido time, so we
Oh.
gotta we gotta make it quick.
We can go fuego rapido. Let's do it.
Mm.
Let's herald this thing in. This is the inaugural soundbite for the
El
fuego.
Fuego Rapido.
Oh man, that's gonna turn some people off pretty thoroughly.
The soundbite might not make it to the
Uh,
rebroadcast of the show.
You heard it. You swear you heard it.
I gotta find the topics.
all right, yeah, we'll go a minute and a half, I reckon, on this round. What do you guys think?
Fine with me.
Let's do it. All right. So here we go. Chess clocks for rounds for tournaments that have more than 4 rounds. Should it be mandatory?
No chess clocks are not needed anymore in 9th edition. Done.
It's
Ooh,
hot take. Look, we may not take the whole minute.
ooh,
What you got,
oh.
Adam?
I think for the time being, they absolutely. I think they should be mandated that if you hit T whip, you play with a chess clock until the end of the event, until such a time when we have statistical data to back up the fact we don't need them anymore.
T-whip
'Cause-
means your position. You could be in tournament winning position. You are sufficient record to where that you are playing for some type of podium, including winning position
yeah,
of the
so
tournament. And
that means you're either 4-0 or 5-0 going into like the last round or second last round.
I'm really
in
glad
a
I met
5 round
Adam.
tournament.
Sorry,
So
Alan, what?
No, I just said I'm really glad I met you, Adam, because I never disagreed with anyone more. So it's set a new bar.
You shut your mouth.
well, we got 30 seconds, Alan. Do you want to expand on why
You
you
want to
think that they're
rebuke me, man?
I mean, unfortunately, right now with 9th, I feel like because we're not doing a differential, most games are over by turn 3.
Agree
So
there.
I really don't think there's a need for chess. I've never personally not finished the game. I think our
Same.
round times have also got longer. I think if you have players who are notorious for not finishing games, I can name 5 right now. I'm sure you can too. They should just be docked. Like there's a new code of conduct, and if you have a reputation for not finishing games, you need to be penalized in some way because
there we
we
go.
should
We're
all
at the
be
end of
trying to
that.
finish games.
Where now contrast paints, hot or not. Now
I
we're all painters, right? I mean, we know we're talking about stats and we're talking about winning, but we all paint. Adam, we'll start with you. What do you get?
I
Contrast
have
paints.
yet to purchase a contrast paint. I've not used one nor bought one, and I've not yet found the need to. I hear they're a very good product. I do not like the idea of painting an entire model with them, though. I think they should be used as a tool, like any other paint, like a glaze, like a shade. When I see models that are entirely painted with contrast, they either look amazing or not.
Alan, what you think?
I think I feel sick to my stomach because I'm going to agree with Adam on something.
Yeah,
Um,
suck it, Alan.
yeah. No, contrast paints are they're great to apply all your base coats. I think they're actually really good. So, but you have to actually shell out for the primer. They do not work with Home Depot primers or any other primers. It's just not going to happen. You have to buy their gray primer, and you could put all the base colors on, and then after that, I recommend using traditional paints, working all your highlights up, even some base coats and some layers. I would go back with the regular paint after that. But you save so much time because that second layer you apply is just instantly better. It almost looks like you did it with an airbrush gun because that contrast paint is so thin. So that's how I do it typically, and that's how I recommend using them.
I think anything is a tool, and what we might refer to as like hobby hacks or cheats. Other artists and real people with talent, they call it a technique, and these contrasts you can work them into your techniques. And I've seen beautiful painted models with all contrast, and I just ran us out of time. I know, I apologize. Okay, sporting 40K merch. There's a whole Warhammer merch site with with branded things, so even art, and then you've got tournament shirts. Is it cool to wear them out in the rest of the world?
I mean,
Absolutely.
to the gym, yeah. I actually don't typically wear too much 40K stuff out. The most 40K stuff I have is my team stuff. So this is my has-beens team with all the has-beens of 40K: Ben Moley, Nick Rose, Greg Sparks. Brad's on this shirt. I don't think Chester's a has-been anymore. So That's different. But I have all that like
Come
all
back
the
around.
team stuff. Yeah.
I like it. There's several things that I'm proud of. My team as well. I wear my team shirts around tournaments that I've been a part of that that I've helped host or stuff like that. I love it. Like the Nopin shirt that Adam's wearing, and some of them just look cool. I mean, there's they just look neat, cool art. And so whatever you feel confident and comfortable in, I say go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. I got to make some GG stuff too. And
Hey,
where's our
Absolutely.
swag? Tell Val we need Frontline swag. Thursday show
Yes.
swag. That's what we
Yes.
need. I need to be
Agreed.
wearing something that says Thursday show. I can
My
wear that
turn to
anywhere.
agree with Alan. My
I
turn to
got
agree
I
with
wear that
Alan. That's
anywhere.
absolutely brilliant.
I got a sweet FTN logo. I love wearing that thing. It's a
Yeah.
especially
Exactly.
sometimes the whole family would go out and be like, "What's that?" Like you get to conversation point, whatever. It's a starter. 3 seconds left, and I don't think we have any dissension on this.
Rapido.
Um, I'm not sure what we're going for. Is it how much is too much? I guess
Uh,
maybe for a
I,
model or
no. How much is too
a
much to pay
tournament.
for tournament entry?
Yeah, okay. How much is too much to pay for a tournament entry? What's the criteria? Alan, let's start with you.
I think it's $20 a round. So if you're paying for games, I think $20 a round is a good number for a large event. So anything that has 6 rounds or more, I think $20 a round is probably fair. I'm paying $20 to play a game of 40K with a stranger who's going to take it as seriously or have fun with me in a gentleman game and an experience. I think that's fair. I do think event organizers have to at least break even. So that will change the
Hmm.
price, right? So I think every event organizer needs to break open. I would feel horrible if I went to a
Yeah.
GT and I found out that the event organizer lost money. And this has happened to me before,
Mhm.
and I just feel bad. So I think that's another big thing.
Adam, what you think?
I tend to agree with Alan on this one as well. $20 a round is pretty good. It's usually 3 hours of entertainment with like some of the people you like the most on the planet. So usually it's pretty good value for the $20. That does sound some people that might be off-putting when they talk about things like CanCon, like LVO, when they conceptualize, hey, I'm paying like 120, $140 to go to this thing. I'm not sure if firstly, I'm not sure if I'm going to get to play every round because I might get cut off or might not make the brackets. Secondly, I'm in Vegas already. It may be an expensive-ish place or location to travel to. So yeah, it is a consideration people got to say.
Oh, we're out of time. I hate to cut you off. I know
We
that's a
can
topic
come
we
back
should
to
come
that one
back to.
though.
Although we have an old
Yeah.
topic on here, MSU versus horror, we could probably eat in another 2 minutes into this. So we're gonna break the rules. We're 4 episodes in and we're breaking rules. Fuego Rapido, double time on the cost of an event. So Adam, give you 10 more seconds on that, and then I got to jump in.
Look, I am totally fine to pay $50 a day. If
Oh,
that's an easy way people are doing it, $50 a day for a 2-day event, $100, totally fine. Breaks down to pretty much the same as what Alan said anyway. And I think if you just say $50 for a day's entertainment, people find that palatable. People find that okay. It's $50 for a whole day. Even if you're only playing 2 days on the second, two games on the second day,
Yeah, that's a
when
good
you
point.
say like that,
oh.
it makes when you do have to sell these things sometimes as well.
There's
We're still selling
economics
a
involved,
product.
right? So
Yeah,
there's
exactly
the
right.
all thing about the TO breaking even and stuff like there's a whole lot of risk that the TOs make, and yes, sometimes it comes down to math. Is that we have the event costs this much, the swag we have is either donated or this or cost this. The organization the turn that does this, and so this is by nature what the event is, and then if it seems like a high cost, then make it worth it to folks, and that's something that the LVO and all the FLG events and Adepticon and Nova and all those things, they make it worth it for you in their approach to things. And so, I say that how much is too much? I don't know. It's like how long is a piece of string? I
Mm,
think it comes down to a value proposition that the organizers present. As hosts of the events, and by nature of the economics of what it costs to put on the event in the first place where they are. Oh, and that's it. We are out. So, Horus Heresy game setting, is it better than the regular 40K game setting for both games and balance and stuff? What's your opinion, Alan? Wait. We went back to Adam, so technically I got to go to Alan first. Alan, what do you think about that?
Okay. Horus Heresy, awesome books, awesome story, awesome background, awesome fluff. Game, boring. Everything is Marines. Boring game. Not fun. I don't care. Where are orcs? Where are orcs? Are they in the game? No. Not
Oh
fun.
man, I got. Let me tell you about. Give you a brochure on Ulanor. and that's where the orcs are.
Yeah.
So Adam, what do you think?
So I chucked this. I think I chucked this one on, and the question was: is Horus Heresy a better setting for the game than 40k? And for my mind, yeah. I mean, there's more going on. There's more intrigue. I don't like the stale nature that 40k has had for kind of the last 10 years. It's starting to get pushed forward a lot now in the last kind of 4 or 5 years with 8th and 9th edition. I'd like to see that continue and not just kind of another stale setting for the event for the game for another 5 or 6 years. I want to see them continue to push that forward and not just give us like a Vigilus every year and pat us on the head. But I find the Great Crusade era stuff, the Horus Heresy stuff, the most intriguing place to read about the fluff and engage with the game. And I don't think that's a surprise. I think that's even half of what Alan said. He says like the story, the setting is just hands down better, but it doesn't have enough diversity to keep people interested. I do agree with that, but I think that's because the Horus Heresy was built to be the Horus Heresy. I find the setting of 30k to be better. The setting of the Crusade, Mega Arachnids for the Tyranids, the Necrons are still there.
We're out of time.
Still there.
We need to get Paul a horn so he could just stop Adam. You know,
I will say
you're supposed to play the soundbite.
One
that was the whole point, wasn't it?
Xenos players seem to categorically agree that it is a worse setting, but I love the element of playing, and I love the balance aspect of it. But I'm going out of our time as well. So that is bringing us to the end of our show. But there's some interesting topics we want to talk about. We can continue this segment of preferred tournament settings and stuff. That's something we can talk about as we go through these events weekend after week.
Yeah, something I wanted to talk about today, and I've been talking about to other people, is the idea. And I don't know how GW is gonna be running tournaments. I don't know how Frontline's gonna be running tournaments, but I do like the idea for these 3-day events specifically that we should really start to talk about the concept of 2 games Saturday and 2 games Sunday. Everyone's in brackets of 16 and you only play 2 games. Imagine going to Vegas and you just have 2 games. You might only be there for 4 hours, maybe tops, because you might finish your second game early. And then you can go enjoy Vegas with all your friends and all, because that's really why I want to go to an event. And I think if you play the 4 games to create the brackets on Friday and everyone just plays 2 and 2 on all these 3-day events, I think it's a better experience for everyone. And you can enjoy the area more. You have more time to do more things. Yes, Friday will suck. It's 4 games. But I feel like that is really the way to go. And we will need a differential there, I think, to make sure that's true top 16s in each bracket. But I would really like to start a narrative around, no pun intended, Paul, to start a narrative around kind of share that idea.
No, so that's interesting, and I think I would like to engage in these discussions, with you and the chat about this type of thing. You never know what may come out of it. Well, hey, I want to thank everybody for showing up and watching us live, listening after the fact, and also you guys showing up and talking to us about these tournaments. If you're watching from the tournaments that we talk about, throw some stuff in the chat about what list you're taking if you're willing to call your shot. We don't have all the list all the time, and seeing these things and interacting with folks as they're getting ready for the event. I think we're going to put a clock up every now and then showing you basically doomsday clock of how long you have to finish painting and putting together your army on some of these shows, and that'll be fun, especially as we start being in real time close to some of these things. Alan, Adam, anything else you want to talk about before we wrap this show up?
Shout out to all my brothers and sisters playing in the GTO this weekend. Good luck to all of you. I wish I was there with you guys. Hope you guys have a great time. For one of the first big events by that crew, by that TO group, their first 2-dayer. So good luck to them. They put in all the hard work. Hopefully it's an awesome event.
Best of luck, everybody, this weekend. Stay safe. Please like, share, and subscribe. Leave some comments. Do all that stuff you do. Leave us some 5-star reviews if you're listening. I don't know where you're listening, but if you do, let us know where you're listening so we make sure that we're there. We'll see y'all next week.
See you then.